Today's episode is brought to you by Positively Productive Systems, whose mission is to be the antidote to your stress and to provide compassionate productivity resources and coaching that help you heal and achieve. Be sure to check out both free and paid resources at positivelyproductive.com/resources.
As busy women, we just are so prone to taking ourselves for granted. And I like to tell people breathwork is a form of self-care. And self-care is not a luxury. It's a priority. You are a priority.
You're listening to the Positively Living Podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Zaratny, founder of Positively Productive Systems and a productivity coach certified in positive psychology and stress management. Join me as we explore ways to live a more proactive, positive life with episodes on productivity, self-awareness, mindset, entrepreneur life, habits and systems, simplicity, fun, and more. I understand overwhelm personally as a multi-passionate entrepreneur, wife and mom to kids and cats, and as a caregiver. I'm here to help you choose what's right for you so you can do less, live more, and breathe easier. Sound good? Let's get to it. Welcome to the Positively Living Podcast. I'm your host, Lisa, and I invite you to take a deep breath with me. Inhale through your nose and exhale out your mouth, making the exhale just a little longer. Ready? Inhale through your nose and exhale from your mouth. Does that feel better? I find it usually helps me right on the spot, and I tend to do it often throughout the day, especially when I'm feeling agitated and stressed. I use this simple approach in my guided meditations, and I believe it's a big reason why they work so well. It's amazing what a deep breath can do, and today we're going to explore that topic even deeper with my guest, Jenny Cheifetz, who's a certified breathwork facilitator. She began as a slight skeptic, but now is someone who loves this tool as another one in our wellness toolbox. We talk about what breathwork is and its many benefits, as well as who would benefit from it and how. Specifically, how this is a wordless technique, ideal for those who maybe don't want to talk in order to be able to calm their stress response and reduce their anxiety. Be sure to listen to the end where Jenny offers a bunch of examples of how we can try breathwork ourselves, depending upon how much time we have and the result we want. It doesn't take long to make a difference. And she mentions that transitions are an especially important time to focus on breathing. I agree with that, and that's something I've helped my clients with for a while now through a 2-minute guided breathing meditation, perfect for transitions. You can get that at positivelyproductive.com/podcast vault for a very special listener discount. Now let's join Jenny to breathe our way to a better life. Welcome to the Positively Living Podcast, Jenny. I'm so happy to talk to you today.
Thanks for having me, Lisa.
It'll be like taking a nice deep breath.
Always.
And I think we could all use that, but there's even more to it than that. And before we get into that, our topic of the day, I'd love it if you'd tell us a bit about who you are, who you help. And my favorite part of this question, you can start with it, is what makes you light up?
My name is Jenny Cheifetz. I'm a mom of 2 older teens. I guess starting tomorrow is my daughter's birthday, so I will officially have a 17 and 18-year-old. Yeah, life most days is thrilling, adventurous. It's interesting. I've worn a lot of different hats throughout my life, and this new one as of the last few years of life coach, breathwork coach for sports moms and those athletes. Moms who feel stressed, overwhelmed, chaotic, fatigued. And it is thrilling to have tools in my pocket, arsenal, box, to be able to share them and know that they work or that they are useful and helpful. That is very exciting.
One of the things that I appreciated was the fact that though your intention may be to help the teens, which I'm all about because I have 2 teens as well. We know that by helping parents, helping moms, that's how we help kids, right? So this is across the board something that works for all ages. And that's a rare thing. I mean, that, and I think Legos.
Right.
So it's wonderful in its simplicity. So I'm curious what your story is behind getting into breath work specifically.
I'm a late bloomer with personal growth. It was during the pandemic that I had the opportunity to work with a life coach myself. It was an easy entry, low price, DIY type of program that was perfect for issues that I had been struggling with for decades. And it was a DIY type of program that also had touch points with a coach. I liked the growth that I was already seeing in this Scratch the Surface program. So I bought more, did more, got more involved in the work, and I liked who I was working with. One thing led to another. That coach introduced me to the coach that she actually got her certification through. I ended up getting my certification through the same person she got her certification through. It was just one of those things. As I was working with my coach, I had the epiphany of, I love what this coach is doing for me, and I would like to do this for other people. It was just, I wasn't working during the pandemic, and I had stopped what I was doing serendipitously, and yeah, saw it as a new avenue. So I then got the life coaching certification, and that same coach also certified in breathwork. So she was bringing that modality into the life coaching work. So she was using it in the coaching for our growth. Yeah, I was like, wow, this is really interesting. I'd never heard of it. I mean, I grew up in the first world. I knew about meditation. I knew about yoga. There were things I did know about, but I had never heard of breath work until she used it in our sessions. And I was like, this is wacky. I didn't get the full blown transformation. I admit that fully. It wasn't like my world was cracked open the way some people have had experiences. But I definitely was intrigued. I had benefits. So I did it, and I did it more times and more times. And I was like, this is so unique. And there were times that I would do sessions and the benefit was just relaxation. And then there were times where it was almost like, I mean, I've never taken psychedelics, but my response was what I imagine. I would walk out into the world and see things brighter. Things would pop. Things would just be more vivid, clearer. And then there were times I'd come out of sessions and have more clarity, more just creative ideas.
Some of the things that you brought up in this description, in fairness, that you weren't immediately converted because you were trying to figure it out. And I appreciate that transparency. And I think that's really good for the skeptics who are like, breath work. Yeah, I do the breathing all the time. What's the difference? That's what we're exploring today. But you mentioned relaxation. That's for one, right? So we're touching upon tapping into the nervous system and calming and the things that can come from that. We've talked about it on the podcast before, better focus and bringing that stress response down. That alone is like, okay, worth the price of admission. So here you are having these experiences. It happens to be part of your life coaching certification training. And once again, the upsell worked out beautifully because it called to you. what made the difference between, oh, that was great for me to experience and I'll grab that information and roll with it and I'm going to move forward with life coaching versus making that decision to say, no, I'm definitely going all in on the breath work? What changed or convinced you, I guess?
There were a couple of things. So, again, full transparency, there was a piece of me that had the FOMO. Am I missing out if I don't do this? Will I not have a skill or technique that I won't be able to offer my clients if I don't proceed with this? Related to that is I want to have extra tools to offer. So even if I don't have this full blown transformative personal experience, doesn't mean I can't offer that to my clients. And thirdly, I felt like the more I do it, the more opportunities I do have to give myself all of those lists of benefits that I know are available.
And what we talked about so far is setting the scene, right? Of, okay, you're exploring this. This is kind of an interesting concept. It's another tool in the toolbox. So you bring it forward. And so it's either what you have experienced, either yourself or for your clients, or specifically why someone would want to incorporate breath work as a tool versus others. So let's get a better sense of what it is specifically and maybe what it's not. Help us understand breath work.
What I love about breath work is that it's not talking. And so for clients who want to find those answers or want guidance, and I say this about coaching too, is that it is coming from you, the client. It's not coming from me. I don't have the answers. I'm not giving you the answers. It is always coming from you. But with coaching, there's talking involved. With breath work, it isn't. It's energy moving by using breath patterns. So we all go through the day breathing, and most of us are doing it in a stressful way. Okay, we're doing shallow upper chest breathing because most of us, as I'm referring to mostly the Western world, is a pretty rushed society. We're overworked, we're chaotic, we're trying to get from here to there. We're not focused on deep yoga, intentional, mindful breathing. And we're mouth breathing. Now, if you were to intentionally change that and focus on nose breathing, right away you're going to lengthen that breath and go deeper into your diaphragm, your lower body. And so right away you're going to feel a more relaxed, calmer state because you're getting lower into your body, you're getting into that parasympathetic nervous system. What I love is that if people aren't super comfortable with the talking or don't want to get into the talking and just it's allowing the body to do the work for them. It's really helpful if the client has an intention, and the intention could just be feel calmer, feel less stressed. It could be as basic as that, or it could be, for example, I had a client that wanted to get out of a rotten relationship or something specific, wanted to bring more of a voice into her job, wanted to speak up at work. It could be specific like that. And what we do in the breathwork session is ideally I would know that intention ahead of time so that I could craft the session, the choreography of the session with breath patterns and music. So the tempo of the music, the beats per minute of the song choices and the breath pattern so that it's the flow, feeling into that nervous system regulation, the working on the way the breath will work, helping with that heart rate variability and working with the way the breather is breathing to move that energy. Now, this is going to take into consideration that specific person's history of trauma, history of breathing, history of what do they have experience with? Is this person familiar with yoga? Is this person an athlete? Is this person coming out of a bad relationship? Does this person have health issues? Look, there's a lot to take into consideration. Has the person ever done breathwork before? And how much this person wants to do the work and is ready to do the work. We're going to titrate in. So we're not going to go probably gangbusters and do a 45-minute session our first time in. We'll probably ease our way into it. And as the person gets comfortable and familiar with me and this type of work our way up to a longer session. I, as the coach, as the facilitator, will be cueing. I have cues, I have mantras that will work with the intention that the person brings. And I'm there to guide and support the breather so that they're not feeling alone or unsafe at any point. It's really a fascinating process to witness. And it could be as simple as an inhale and an exhale with complete intention behind that breath.
There's so much to unpack here, but let's have a little fun with the science and the experience of it. Of course, as soon as you said music, I was like, I'm sorry, what now? You have my attention. Another interesting point that you made, and it was one of our great takeaways, so I want to make sure that we do an auditory highlight. Everyone notice that Jenny said, if we only walk away today by more intentionally breathing through our nose, that will make a huge difference. That's something that I've been paying a lot of attention to. I think because I'm a meditator, because I'm a singer too, and I've also been a musician for a long time, diaphragmatic breathing is pretty natural for me. And I'm lucky for that. But I still have to intentionally do it because you're absolutely right. When I'm on the go, if my sort of automatic breathing is definitely chest shallow, I think I probably use my nose to breathe a little bit more naturally. But those are things that if we even notice them as we move forward, that makes a difference. In terms of the science itself, again, not a scientist here, but it is my love language. So we're going essentially from the fight or flight, well, it could be freeze or fawn as well, place to I always think of rest and digest. So,
Yes.
Food is always paramount to me. But in all seriousness, it's that point of, it's not even just relaxation so much as calm so that you are able to do things like rest and digest, which is why intentional moments before we eat are so important for our digestion. Because if we walk into something, it could be a meeting, it could be a meal, with that stress response, we're going to bring that energy in. So as you're saying, the breathing that we do is moving that energy around. The other thing it sounds like is that, and again, this goes into yoga and all manner of places where you might see breath work. This is flat out, regardless of if you're looking for an epiphany, an oxygenating activity.
Yeah.
We know this with cardiovascular work in terms of exercising. It's oxygenating. We know that even taking a walk in nature can change our focus abilities, our creative potential, if you will. It can make a lot of shifts, and that's pretty incredible. So it sounds here like you have a situation where you, as a coach, are taking into consideration a lot of these aspects of familiarity and experience and things like that. And that you're also you're helping them bring intention forward and maybe a mantra. And when you were describing that, one of the things that popped into my brain was the idea of EFT tapping.
Mm.
So it sounds like there's an adjacentness to it.
Sure.
Okay. These are the similar ideas. So if you're familiar with one, it may help you to understand the other, and then also to maybe understand what your preference is. So it seems like everyone can benefit from breathing better. I'll go
Yeah.
with that. I'm
Yeah.
a fan of breathing. I say keep doing it. However, is there anyone that you would say, maybe breath work is not for you just yet?
If you have major serious health conditions, I don't really know the situation with pacemakers and that sort of thing. I say to people, go talk to your doctor. The problem is most doctors, the majority of doctors are traditionally trained and not familiar with this modality. So if you were to go say to them, I'd like to go try this thing called breath work, they probably don't know what you're talking about to approve it or not approve it. So that's the conundrum. I mean, most people are familiar with yoga.
Hmm.
So you could tell them, well, that thing at the end, the Shavasana period where you're doing intentional mindful breathing. It's a whole session of that. I guess you could explain it like that and run it by a doctor. That's the tricky thing. Pregnancy, that's another toss up because back in the day, the whole Lamaze thing, it's like that's breath work. And yet I was trained to say that pregnant women should beware of breath work. So I don't know.
I think everyone wants to be incredibly careful with pregnant women,
Right.
as well they should be. So thank you. Yeah, that really helps. It's not necessarily that we have to have a specific answer, but I wanted you to help us understand if there's any place where it's either contraindicated or it would be really important to get a medical opinion on this. And I think in general, it's understanding your body, your health conditions, speaking with your doctor, and then maybe knowing the limitations, probably across the line of, like you said, either, yogic breath work, or, and I'm even thinking too, like, what would your doctor tell you about your heart rate, maybe, and, what you would do if you were working out in the gym and what levels you want to get to or not. And kind of comparing and contrasting. I'm sure that there are a lot of data monitors that would help us. I mean, we're wearing, Apple Watches and things like that. So there could be incredible ways for us to figure that out. It's definitely a talk with your doctor. But again, it's also about breathing. So you may have your own instincts about this and say, I feel like this is probably a safe place. But at the same time, oxygen levels in our body, as they vary, can affect us in different ways. So it's important for us to be aware of that. And just like water can be toxic at certain levels, so can anything else. And it's just something to be aware. Thank you. That's good. All right. With that in mind, I understand that you can choreograph. I really like that term for it. So musical, so creative and artistic in this, and that you would do something very specific, very bespoke, that you can definitely craft that for us. But let's just say for the moment, we walk away going, all right, Jenny, this breathwork stuff sounds pretty cool. I am going to start to breathe through my nose a little bit more, maybe just take a deep breath once in a while. I know Lisa's always telling me to do that. But what else can we do on our own? I mean, you had me intrigued with the whole, I'm going to see colors more clearly in like 10 to 15 minutes of breathing. I tease, but in all seriousness, what could we craft on our own as we walk away today?
My son decided to go exercise at the bird crack of dawn today. So I was awoken at 4:30 and I needed to try and find a way back to sleep. So I said, oh, well, Jenny, this is a perfect opportunity to use your breath work. So even just focusing on a mantra or a word, again, whether it's something peaceful, an anchor type of thing, whether it's a visual or a word, and doing that, I use the term halo active. So just that breath that goes into each other. So the inhale to exhale rhythmically, but that. So either an inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth, or what I did in the middle of the night is I kept it just through my nose. So I kept my mouth shut and kept it strictly nose breathing and just focused on an anchor image, anchor word. And, again, whether it was ocean waves and thinking of a peaceful thought, thinking about sleep, thinking about peace. And I mean, that was obviously in the middle of the night. During the day, you might not want to be thinking about going to sleep, but you might be thinking of, I'm just thinking of ocean waves because that to me is very peaceful. But you might have mountaintops, a hike you like. I'm even just looking at a beautiful crystal on my desk, a steaming cup of coffee, something peaceful. If you're in traffic and you find yourself white knuckling the steering wheel because, you're prone to road rage, you want to loosen up that grip. Maybe you put on a classical station if you still use the radio, or if you have Spotify, put on something peaceful. And if you don't have that queued up, get something queued up. I have a public account on Spotify. Find my name on Spotify. I have all of those choreographed playlists that I speak of in breathwork. They're all there. You might have to sort through the Taylor Swifts and the Bruno Mars that are also there, but all of my breathwork playlists are there. Find something, they're labeled pretty well as, calming or, the intentions, stress relief. Find something, loosen that grip, and think of a rainbow. Think of a crescent moon. Think of something, loosen that grip. And what intention is meaningful to you? Is it gratitude? Is it abundance? Is it, I want to spend more time with my family? Maybe it's something just specific to your life. Looking forward to that upcoming vacation. Something. And either that breath pattern, give yourself, maybe it's counting the breaths. In, out, count to 10, count to 15. Maybe it's, look at the clock and give yourself a minute, give yourself 2 minutes. Transition periods. I also like to allow for focused breath. So before entering your house at the end of the workday, maybe it's before entering your office on the way to work, in the parking lot if you have a car, or if you've taken the train, whatever it is, like before entering your office. Transition periods can be very stressful, especially those, if you have a lot of moms who listen, that, in the carpool line before your kids get in the car, or before you enter your house at the end of the day, or before you get out of bed and start your day in the morning. Having those moments, like I said, maybe it's 30 seconds. Another period for me that I enjoy is frankly standing in the shower. That might be, for a lot of people, the only time you're alone. It could be the only time that you experience shut out of the noise.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's a mom of young kids, that could be the only time you tune out the noise. Use that to breathe. Use that. I can't give you those extra breath patterns, but it could be that the box breath. A lot of people know that I don't have to teach you. So inhale, hold, exhale, hold. I mean, there's a lot of different patterns that I could go through in a session, but there are top holds where you inhale, hold it, which is typically for people who are in a lower state, more of a depressed state. You would take that inhale, hold it at the top. That can bring up your state. And the opposite, if you're feeling anxious. So, if you're going into a doctor's appointment, I hate to say this, my husband's a dentist, but going into a dentist appointment and you're feeling anxious, or if you're going into a school conference and you're feeling on edge, taking that inhale, exhaling the whole breath, and then holding. We call that a bottom hold. And if you can really feel your feet on the ground, getting that grounded sensation, that can actually be anxiety relieving. And I would do that in a session. If someone is wanting to reduce anxiety, I would incorporate that into the session. So that's just a quick.
No, those are excellent the top hold versus bottom hold, depending upon you want it to be energy giving or anxiety releasing. I love that. And I've found myself doing that instinctively where sometimes I'm like feeling really stressed. I'm like, okay, breathe, Lisa.
Sometimes your body just has that instinctive knowing.
Yeah. Sometimes you just know. But so with this, I can see you can choose it to be timed 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, something that you feel like you can do. Some kind of pattern, just pick a pattern. You could even like roll the dice and be like, okay, I'm going to do box breathing this time. I'm going to do, what did you call the breathing? That's like, to me, it reminds me of like a circle of the, the inhale and the exhale are connected.
Halo. Active.
There we go. Beautiful. Yep. So the halo breathing, or you could do top hold or bottom hold, again, depending upon what feels right in the moment. Excellent suggestion of being in the shower while you're doing that anyhow. And I have to say, again, sometimes instinctively, I'm like, let me just wash away the stress. I'm literally and figuratively doing that in that moment. Final thoughts for us. These are great tips and ideas for us to walk away and actually try and incorporate very simply the breathing into our lives. Any other final thoughts for us?
As busy women, we just are so prone to taking ourselves for granted. And I like to tell people breathwork is a form of self-care. And self-care is not a luxury. It's a priority. So keep that in mind. You are a priority.
So true. All right. I will be sure to have your information in the show notes so that we can connect with you. Are you ready for the rapid wrap-up, Jenny?
Probably not, but
I want you to not overthink this, okay? Because there are no wrong answers here. The first is to fill in the blank, the song that lifts my spirits and makes me want to dance or energizes me or makes me breathe better is?
You Belong With Me.
Okay, how about a quote or a mantra, something that inspires you or that you tend to share with people?
Is it one day or day one?
Ooh, that's a good one. All right, and a resource other than breathwork, of course. It could be a book, an app, anything really that's just made your life better.
I'm a big fan of Insight Timer.
I had a feeling you might mention that. That has been mentioned before, and it really is a good resource. Okay, and last but definitely not least, what are you grateful for today, Jenny?
I'm grateful for the supportive people in my life.
Absolutely. For those of us who come in and offer, it could be anything from advice to commiseration to simply a presence, to holding space. And you have done that for so many who are listening today, and I'm grateful for that and for you doing that. And I want to thank you, Jenny, for shining your light in this world, for breathing deeply into this world, and for sharing your wisdom with us today.
Thank you, Lisa. I so appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you for joining me today. Your time is precious and limited, and I'm honored you chose to spend it with me. If you have feedback, questions, or want to schedule a chat, head to positivelyproductive.com/connect. And if you are looking for any of the resources referenced on the podcast, from books to products to training and more, go to positivelyproductive.com/resources.